This is Tony Stark, better known as Iron Man, starting the Monaco Grand Prix. This is James Bond arriving in Monte Carlo, and this is the tennis tournament held there every year. Whenever Monaco is mentioned, whether it's fiction or reality, there are fast, expensive cars. Entire YouTube channels are dedicated to car spotting. It's a billionaire's playground, where 1 in 3 people are millionaires, and the average apartment costs over $5 million.
Of the great motor races begins in 5 lights time.
So it may seem natural that Monaco hosts a round of Formula 1, and that it's the most famous race on the planet. But 100 years ago, no one dreamed of holding a race in the middle of a city, especially not in a country just half the size of New York's Central Park. So why does Monaco host a Grand Prix? And how did it become the center of motorsport? It all goes back to before Formula 1 even existed, and a history that proves how a tiny country can transform itself, turn its weaknesses into a prestigious brand, and generate a staggering amount of money in a single weekend. To understand it all, first, we need to go back to the family dynasty where it all began. In 1297, the Grimaldi family crossed over from Italy into French territory, following the coast for 7.5 miles until they found a temple, a castle, and a port. They overthrew the locals and began building the foundations of modern Monaco. Since then, a line of princes have ruled the country. They quickly expanded the territory to stretch up to where France now borders Italy. But by 1861, they had lost control of nearby Roquebrune and Monte. That was 95% of its territory gone, with less than a square mile remaining. The Grimaldis were faced with 3 problems: a lack of money, a lack of space, and a lack of power. And so they decided to take a huge gamble by building a casino. This was a brilliant move. It brought enough money to fund new hotels, improve the casino, and modernize the city. Plus, it helped solve the space problem. The Grimaldis now had the resources to reclaim land, slowly but surely expanding the size of Monaco out into the Mediterranean. But it was clear that relying entirely on the casino would never be enough. The bank had been broken a number of times, meaning there wasn't enough cash to pay out winnings. The key to building long-term power would be making Monaco a world-renowned place. And so, in 1911, Prince Albert found a new way to promote Monaco. He held a rally. Cars with the words Monte Carlo Rally printed on started from different cities all around Europe and raced to Monte Carlo. However, the rally failed to get Monaco accepted into the International Automobile Club. Without that, it couldn't be part of European motorsport. The reason was that almost the entire race took place outside Monaco's borders. This was the whole problem. Race circuits were usually purpose-built, far away from cities. How could Monaco possibly hold a race inside its tiny borders, which from end to end was just 2 miles long? The solution came from a man named Anthony Noge, born and bred in Monaco, and the son of a wealthy cigarette tycoon. Why not transform the entire city for a weekend, he thought. Why not create a race within the town? He began sketching out how to repurpose normal roads for racing machines, hitting on all the major landmarks, by the casino, zigzagging down to the port, and through the quay next to the harbor. Anthony Noge had just designed the world's first street circuit. The Monaco Grand Prix became a reality on April 14, 1929. Lining up on a grid were Bugattis, Alfa Romeos, Mercedes, and Maseratis. The winner took home 10,000 francs, just $7,000 in today's money, but a huge prize for the time. More importantly, the Grand Prix earned Monaco a spot in the prestigious European Championship. From then on, the reputation only grew. It was described as one of the world's most grueling road races, and it was elevated to the status of Grande Preuve, making it one of the 8 most important races in Europe. But in 1949, when Prince Rainier III took over the reins in Monaco, business was dwindling. During World War II, wealthy Europeans couldn't afford to gamble in Monte Carlo. Luckily, in 1950, a brand new motorsport competition was born, the Formula One World Championship. It guaranteed that Monaco would have a Grand Prix every year. For drivers, the street circuit was the ultimate test. There was no margin for error. On two separate occasions, in 1955 and 1965, drivers crashed to the barriers and splashed into Monaco's harbor, both narrowly escaping. This level of danger helped make the Monaco circuit legendary and brought more eyes to the sport than ever before. But for the drivers, the connection to Monaco went deeper. Starting in the 1980s, top drivers like Ayrton Senna lived in Monaco. Today, out of the 20 Formula One drivers this season, 13 of them live in the Principality. When they race in Monaco, it shows. This is Kimi Raikkonen's car breaking down in the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix. And just minutes later, this is him sitting on his very own yacht, with his shirt off, drinking. But it's more than the champagne lifestyle attracting drivers here. The real reason is that Monaco residents enjoy special benefits. No income tax, no tax on investment, no wealth or property tax, and no inheritance tax. These policies have made Monaco a tax haven for the super rich. In 2023, Monaco had a GDP of $10 billion. And with just under 39,000 people, the GDP per capita was $256,699. By this metric, the richest collection of people in a single country. But if Monaco is a way for the rich to avoid taxes, then how does the Grand Prix actually make money? Is it actually worth it in the end? And why might the Monaco Grand Prix soon disappear from the sport completely? A week before the Grand Prix, 3,000 trucks descend upon Monaco bringing equipment, tools, fuel, the paddock, and motorhomes. Then come the crowds. Approximately 200,000 people attended the 2022 Monaco Grand Prix. Over the race weekend, hotels above 3.5 stars had almost a 100% occupancy rate, and the average room price surged up over 20%. But unlike almost every other Grand Prix on the calendar, the attendance in Monaco during a Grand Prix is usually less than an average weekend. This is because Monaco is already a huge tourist destination, and the value of Grand Prix visitors is much higher than that of the average tourist. The average cost of attending a Monaco Grand Prix, including accommodations and a couple of meals, is over $3,300. That easily makes it the most expensive race of the year. And that's just for a regular ticket to the race. A more deluxe package can cost around $20,000. As for the super VIPs, the most sought after spots are on yachts. Those are parked up in the port, looking over the circuit. It's the ultimate symbol of wealth and power. Docking a super yacht cost over $14,000 per day. And at the harbor last year was the Ritz-Carlton Evrima, a mega yacht worth $320 million. A room on board for the race costs between $10,000 and $100,000. All up, the direct economic impact is estimated at around $100 million. Not bad for a single weekend. Indirectly, the Grand Prix is much bigger. It's a huge advertisement for Monaco. This is the real value. At least 70 million people watch the Grand Prix at home. It keeps the country associated with wealth, sophistication, and fast luxury cars. And the Grimaldi family is still front and center. Prince Albert II, the great-grandson of the Prince Albert who held that first rally in 1911, was on the podium last year. He presented fellow Monegasque Charles Leclerc with the winner's trophy. This is a two-way relationship. The Monaco Grand Prix, with its history, luxury, and branding, is also a valuable asset for Formula One. At least, it used to be. The tide might be turning. Some countries, like Saudi Arabia, pay as much as $55 million a year in fees just to stay on the calendar. And for decades, Monaco didn't pay a cent. But new owners took over F1 in 2017 and have been making big changes. They reviewed so-called legacy payments that historic teams like Ferrari get each year, and pressure grew to get rid of Monaco's special status too. For many fans, Monaco is now their least favorite track. With wider cars than ever before, there are fewer overtakes, meaning qualifying is often more exciting than the actual race. F1's owners seem to agree. Recently, Monaco was charged a $15 million fee to stay on the calendar, and that fee was reportedly doubled last year to lock in a contract until 2031. If it wants to hold onto its place in motorsport, the Grimaldi family will have to once again reinvent Monaco. Formula One's history has been intertwined with the Monaco Grand Prix for 75 years, since the very beginning, but F1 has a tendency to follow the money. And the biggest threat to Monaco may be coming from an entirely different continent, where there are already 3 races each year. It's a place Formula One was trying to get into for decades, and with a risky $8 billion gamble, it finally broke through. To find out how Formula One took over America, click on the thumbnail on the screen now.